Well, we are once again back live in the book warehouse, and this week I am joined by poet Brandi Bird. How are you today?
I feel great. I had a long day of writing copy at my job.
Oh no.
No, I like it.
Do you? Okay,
I really
okay.
like it.
Yeah.
I listen to like hard techno in the morning as soon as I wake up, and then go to work at my little couch desk.
Yep.
And today I wrote a bunch of emails to send out to potential donors
Fabulous.
and the newsletter for tomorrow. And it was so fun.
There's something so cathartic about having your newsletter done early.
Yeah.
Like when it's like on time and you can put aside just so that the next day you can just hit send and go. Like
I also just
beautiful.
I like the like very rote turn your brain off writing
Sure.
practice that like my job gives me, my professional job outside of the creative life that I've built, because there's low stakes.
Yeah.
And it goes through so many different people's hands or eyes before it gets like published. And poetry is supposed to be like that, but it often isn't.
Big time. Yeah.
So sometimes you will publish, or I will publish something that I'll look back on in a few months or years and be like, oh, that definitely wasn't ready.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it went through some eyes, but it definitely was not ready. I really jumped the gun because I wanted that $20.
Right. Yeah. Okay. You have just unlocked a completely separate can of worms. I'm so grateful for you talking about, because that's something that I've been really mulling over, not only in my own writing, but just in reading a lot of poetry that's coming out. How do I frame this without sounding judgmental of some people? Because I don't want it to sound like I'm like, oh, you should
Be judgmental.
Okay. You know what? Screw it. Let's go hard. Sometimes I'll read stuff I've written and I've published, or stuff that other people have written, and I'll have this feeling of like, did no one else read this? Like, or did you not take any advice on this? And it gives me the impression of, I don't know if they just didn't get pushback on it, or if it was that it felt right in the moment, because sometimes you get really caught up in the sort of the instinctual element of writing poetry, and the just natural, it just feels like something. And then you look back and you're like, oh, I could have maybe put a little bit more chisel work into it, you know?
Well, I think often for me, the problem is I don't give myself enough time.
Sure.
So I'm very excited in the last few years, I've been very, very excited when I'm writing new drafts, and I'll take a poem and write it and edit it over a month. But really what I needed was 6 months in a drawer.
Let it breathe.
Yeah. And then look back on it and be like, oh, okay, this is the key to unlock this poem.
Yeah.
And change something.
Yeah.
But I think there is value in like iterative practice with publishing. Like I oftentimes, because publishing is so slow, it's like I will have said yes to publish something 5 months ago, and then it comes out and that poem's already been ripped apart and put back together again.
Of course.
So I don't know. I think that's also valuable. It's what I really like is going on a poet's website and looking at their like publication history and going through that and comparing the poems on there to the poems in their books. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yes.
And seeing how they changed.
Yeah.
And that's important too, I think. I personally, I think people should feel comfortable sharing first drafts with like trusted people. I sometimes will post first drafts on my close friend stories on like Instagram.
Yeah.
Just be like, witness this that I just created. And then I will look back on that story in like 4 hours and be like, oh my God, I should probably hide forever.
Get that out of there. Yeah.
But like, I am proud of like the not compulsion. That sounds bad, but like, I think it is exciting and we should celebrate just creation itself.
100%. I'm a big believer in the idea of instinctual art, at the very least as your guiding light. You know, maybe as you say, I think once you've kind of iterated and you've really chipped away at it and you figured out what am I actually trying to say here. I was, as a young artist, I was really influenced by David Lynch and the way that he would talk so openly about like just following the impulse and just, not almost not trusting yourself with the first thought, but allowing yourself to keep going deeper and just following the pull, and
Yeah, it's a
it's
lot easier to pull back than
it,
to push forward.
that's just it, right? And then he went on to, he was making films and paintings and music and
He
poetry
also
and
rescued 5 Woody Woodpecker dolls from a lake, which I think is really exciting.
I think that's incredible. Like he's a good man, right?
He did have like 5 wives, and none of them have publicly scolded him. So
That's something I have thought about a lot. I've thought about I think he's, oh my God, this is such a funny tangent, but like he's such a character to me because he is so on paper such a misogynist, and yet everyone who's worked with him just would glow about him, and all of his ex-wives would glow about him, and I was just like,
yeah, it's like a really interesting conversation to be had about like misogyny in his work.
mhm.
And I like that guy.
Oh yeah,
We all, I mean, I'm sure there's shit in my stuff that not to the scale because it's not
yeah,
like maybe like 300 people read poetry.
sure,
Yeah, I think that's important too.
yeah. Before we get any deeper, I want to circle back. I try to open mic. I just love following these threads. I think this is going to be a really fun conversation because we can kind of yes and, but I like to try and open conversations with a simple question of Brandy, who the hell are you?
How dare I? I don't know. I mean, I am at heart a scared little weirdo who spent their entire life thinking they were like outcast and just like awkward and strange and too intense and obsessional, and just bizarre in a way that's never been seen before, but it derogatory. And now I feel very much more comfortable in like that uncertainty about who I am. I'm doing this psychodynamic therapy right now that's like it's not somatic based. I mean, it's not somatics, but it is sort of like somatics, where I'm like relearning how to feel emotions in my body, and that includes like joy,
Yes,
which I did not realize I was not experiencing. I feel like much happier with myself.
Yeah.
When I started my MFA at UBC like 3 years ago, people were like, "Oh, you're so funny. You're so funny. Wow, you're so funny. You're so charming." And I was like, no one's ever told me that before. And so now I feel like I'm gonna believe it and just be like, yeah, I am funny and I am charming, and I'm doing something really scary. I'm challenging myself to take a stand-up comedy course with Aaron Reed at Little Mountain.
Amazing. Aaron Reed, one of the best
I
comedians
love
in the
Aaron.
city.
Oh
Oh,
my God.
incredible.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Also, like he talks about mental health in a really interesting way, like OCD. I'm really excited to learn and be humbled. Like I want to be humbled by someone who's like so much funnier and so much wittier, quicker than me, because I haven't done something that's really scared me for a long time. Like when I got the email that I could take the course, I didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
And was like, I'm not going to tell anyone because then I'll have to do it.
Right. Of
And
course.
because like it's like I'm only not gonna do it because I'm a coward.
Right.
But it turns out I'm not a coward.
You're not.
I'm taking it. Maybe I'll die.
There's I was reading, I think my partner sent this to me, but at the start of the year, everybody always does their New Year's resolutions. And I always talk about how I never do resolutions. If I do anything, I do like this is something I'm going to get worse at this year kind of thing. But they sent me this thing that was basically talking about how when we tell someone our plan to do something, we get the exact same sort of like dopamine rush we would get if we actually did the thing. So that's often why we don't follow through on our resolutions, because we're like, well, I said I would eat healthier, so I feel good enough. And so there is something to be said, like you set a resolution for yourself and you just do it, and you just do it because you want to, right?
I
See,
mean,
maybe you sabotage yourself by taking
well,
this, you know?
yeah, I told my partner made me like, don't, this is something that could be useful to you,
Yes. Yeah.
even in poetry.
Big
Like,
time. Big the construction and the way
yeah,
to.
and like connections
Mhm,
and also like stage presence.
mhm,
I really, really value stage presence,
mm,
like as a poet,
yeah.
because it is like an oral
Mhm,
practice.
mhm,
Like when I'm writing poetry, I'm constantly talking out loud,
mhm.
which is very annoying for other people around me. Um, but I'm like constantly recording myself reading it, and then I can hear where, because my work is like very sonic
Yes.
forward.
Yeah.
It feels good to say, even though it might be ugly
Mhm,
on the page. And so I think that's just another way that form is important
yeah.
in poetry.
Mhm.
It's like you have like a villanelle or whatever on the page, it looks a certain way, but then you read it and it sounds a certain way
It comes
too.
to life.
Yeah.
Literally, Will and I were having this conversation just the other day, was trying to explain that you don't necessarily have to understand the poet's intention. Because I always see poetry as essentially it's like pop music. It's like you hear a song and you don't have to like and understand every song, but you hear a song and you like it for whatever reason, whatever it is that resonates to you. And I think something that we forget is that poetry comes from an oral, told, spoken audio tradition. We were telling each other poems before we had ever written them, and so your book of poetry is only kind of half of the process. It's sort of like you're being given the key, but you have to still walk through the door, and the door is like hear it and listen. So it's very much that process of bringing it back to life to hear the other side, right?
Yeah, like I think a lot of where reading suffer is when I think there are some people who don't practice their cadence or their control of sound, and sometimes it's just not possible.
Sure.
Um, because I don't know, something feels so like anxiety can take over.
Of course.
Sometimes you just go blank on a stage,
Hmm.
which has happened to me certainly many times before. I've had panic attacks before readings.
Oh my God.
Um,
Especially like when I used to do slams and stuff like that, and when you'd be kind of like judged if you had your poetry in front of you, like, oh, it is, And so it's like you get up on stage and then suddenly you're like, it's gone, right? And yeah, those are always fun.
oh my God, I never did slam. I went to
I wish I had it. They're awful. I'm glad it's dead.
I went to one slam poetry thing when I was 17 at Café du Soleil,
Mhm.
and it really intimidated me, and I never went back.
It's nothing.
I think there's like some former slam poets who like have become like page poets,
Mhm.
like Dennis Smith,
Yeah.
who just have incredible stage presence.
Yeah.
Or like Tommy Pico has incredible stage presence.
Mhm.
Mm. And my friend Selena,
Mhm.
and her stage presence inspires me so much.
Mhm.
It's like she warms the air in the room,
Mhm.
and it's like there's a light on her.
Yeah.
And I really aspire to have that sort of
Yeah.
energy when I'm on stage.
Okay, so I have these like kind of like planned questions. I read through this a couple times, and I have to admit, I struggled to find an angle, not because I was like, oh, but because I was like, it triggered a lot of different thoughts in me that I wasn't sure where to go with it. So, we obviously won't have time for all the questions, but we'll see what we can kind of scratch at here. One of them was actually, this is the second collection that you've published after. Do you pronounce it the all plus flesh or all end flesh?
I let people do what they want. It
Okay.
is supposed to be the all plus flesh
Okay.
because it's the etymology of the word pancreas, pan and creas. So, yeah.
I love it. Oh, that's fantastic. And that one, the Indigenous Voices Award was nominated for the Governor General's. Did that kind of bring extra weight as you were sort of walking into writing this second book? Did it feel like that land on you as you were planning on writing this one, or were you just not thinking about that at all?
The all plus flesh felt very painful to write, not
Mhm.
like emotionally or anything. just like I was very anxious about it because I wanted it to be received well.
Okay.
I wanted external validation and I got it.
Yeah,
And that's awesome for me, but not great for my growth.
sure.
So this one, as like a person, I guess,
Mhm.
so Pitiful, I really, oh, well, Pitiful was written almost like the skeleton of it was written in like 2 months,
Right.
just like not thinking about it. I didn't even know if I was going to publish it. Um, and I think I just felt an energy and I wanted to. This is like, I think it felt freeing because I was writing it for myself, and I think I was writing the All Plus Flesh because I think I thought it was time for me to release a book,
Sure.
and not that I was ready to release a book.
Sure.
I had had some conversations with people and like, strike while the iron is hot. Well, people know your name and they like do it. And so I did it. And I mean, that book is very difficult for me because it's also a book I wrote and I feel the tension and resentment in it because it's like a coming of age queer poets book where I talk about my family and uh, I don't know, being uncomfortable
Yeah. Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel that in the poems when I read them back. And I don't like that.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have gone with my instincts and ran towards the things that made me uncomfortable and that I thought were interesting
Mhm.
instead of what I thought other people wanted to hear.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that I like about Pitiful, I actually enjoy, not to say I don't like my first book, but
Yeah.
with Pitiful, what I like about it is that I didn't want to perform anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, I kind of wanted to be gratuitous.
Mhm.
And maybe that's its own type of performance, but like I wanted to just be funny and gross and sexual and talk about things that I hadn't seen being talked about in poetry, like Indigenous poetry specifically.
Mhm.
Whereas like eating disorders, they're really disgusting things.
Yeah.
And we sort of only have this very like teacup version of what an eating disorder is. And actually it's like having terrible breath because your body's starving. And that's just a reality. Like Ariana Grande right now, her breath, it's rancid.
Oh my God, though. Yeah.
And that's just the same.
Yeah.
That's sad. And it's disgusting. We should
Mhm.
know about this.
Mhm.
So I wrote about it.
And the idea of like, oh my God, the idea of giving some kind of almost compulsive expression to things that we're aware of, but we aren't always. That was something that I really found myself coming back to as I was reading through it. Is this idea of you were creating these connections to some things that I was very familiar with and some things that I wasn't, but you were finding these overlaps that were suddenly, sometimes in writing like this, you have those moments where it's almost like a remembering, not a learning, and you're like, oh, that's how I could have said it. And that's how, right. And that to me is that's one of the magic tricks of poetry, I think, is those moments of recognition rather than
Discovery.
yeah. It's like something deeper, right? It's those moments that it feels like you're tapping into something deeper and you're like, oh, right. How could I have forgotten that? And I feel like that's an experience I have while reading a lot of poetry. And it's definitely an experience I had while reading this poetry. And so this book itself, it didn't strike me as it was in itself a clear-cut memoir, but there's obviously, a deeply confessional element. And on top of that, you're also exploring everything mythology to pop culture to, kind of experiential, the gamut of experiences. I think often about this piece of writing advice I got, which was to write from the scar, not from the wound. And I think that builds into, I've got a few questions around that, but to start with, how do you feel like when a real experience you've had is ready to be transformed into some kind of poetic form?
When I don't have the compulsion to totally tell it as it happened.
Love that.
I've been recovered from my eating disorders for 8 years now.
Yeah.
And I used to have this like very I would start writing poetry or nonfiction, and I'd have to get it right. I'd have to get it to what it actually felt like, and it's like I didn't realize at the time that I couldn't get it right.
Yeah.
No one can.
Yeah.
And that's not the point of like art, of poetry, is to get it right to life. We live life. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And like art is just like the art I'm making or trying to make is about it's like the parallel version of myself. So like there's like persona is really important to me in my work. Like the person in this book is not me and is me. But slanted a little bit.
Yeah.
And so everything like I think a lot of my friend Sophie Crocker, she is a poet, and also she's one of the editors at Poetry Trapper Keeper. She interviewed me and she asked me about vulnerability, and I said, well, everything in Pitiful is a choice, and it's emotionally manipulative, like all art is. But I'm choosing to do that. Like I could have taken any of these poems out, any of these lines out, any of these words out, and I didn't. And I kept them in for a reason. The reason is sort of for the reader to figure out, or in like feel for themselves.
Yeah. So paying attention to yourself is, something that my show's been pretty preoccupied with, the idea of like really getting to understand what is this about, and I'm curious in your experience of because of this work, like you say, it's not necessarily a true story, but it's an exploration still of truth, right? Do you find that does that feel like a more liberating process, or does that feel like it's harder to move past the experience that you keep on kind of creatively returning to?
Oh, I feel like I couldn't write this book if I wasn't already past it.
Yeah.
I have no triggers anymore about eating disorders, except for losing weight, which is like, but that's because if like I'm sick and I like can't eat a lot in a week and I lose some weight or whatever, then I get a little bit scared. But it's sort of like far enough away that I'm like, oh, that's an emotion I'm having and a reaction to this that is totally unrelated to what's happening in the now. But there's no words or pictures or anything I could read or see that would trigger me.
Sure.
So I'm not sort of like this. These is just I've lived many of these experiences with the memories in therapy, and I feel super comfortable with it. And I think that's why I'm writing about it.
Yeah.
I really don't think like when I was actively like I still had an eating disorder when I started writing poetry for the first time. I was at Douglas College taking my first poetry class with Elizabeth Baczynski, and she was actually the first person who was like, you could be a poet. You should try that.
Bless her.
I love her. She's great. But she
also how dare you, Yeah, no.
How dare she? But she, like, I was still very sick, and I tried to write poetry about it, and it just came out as like metaphor gibberish.
Yeah.
Because like
you either are trying to talk around it or you're just saying the thing.
Yeah.
And neither works.
Neither works. It's like I gotta like there's tons of like things that I guess are lies in Pitiful, but does that matter? No.
That's all right. So in post memory, which really struck me as one of the kind of like spinal columns of the book, the narrator, the speaker, they're in a psych ward, which, to my money is one of the more extreme forms of isolation that we can conceptualize, especially when, you're there involuntarily and your body is kind of become the reason that you can't leave. And I think one of the more oppressive elements is this idea of the doctors being able to hold the terms of release and being able to decide what your freedom looks like. Can you talk a little bit about what that kind of loneliness felt like in that sort of, what, I don't know if that comes from a direct experience of yours, or where that was coming from, but can you speak a little bit to that isolation, to that feeling?
Yeah, I guess it made what I felt inside or internally external. So
Mm,
it's like a very real um like experience of being caged.
yeah,
Uh, and I was always, always the only non-white person
yeah,
in the ED section
yeah.
of the psych ward in Manitoba, which is very strange. Uh, so that
In prairies in general, too, yeah, yeah.
and so like Native people don't have eating disorders, I guess.
Right. God.
And because of that, it was isolating on like multiple levels. I mean, when as a teenager, it was also comforting
Mhm.
because like I was in foster care at the time, and so it was a cage, but it was also my home.
Yeah.
Like I was in,
There's almost a familiarity to
yeah,
it, right?
yeah. It's like sometimes I remember when I went to Homewood Health Center when I was about 18 or 19. I don't remember exactly. Uh, but I reference part that a little bit in post memory where so, well, the psychiatrist told me that I hold people emotionally hostage, and at that point it was because I was homeless
Mm.
at this
Wow.
private institution that the government was paying for because no one would take me in Manitoba
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
So I mean, I certainly was holding people emotionally hostage,
Sure.
but also these were, except for the OHIP patients,
Yeah.
everyone was like a private
Hmm.
rich person at this eating disorder ward. And I did get kicked out for being intense and crazy, but like they were all intense and crazy, but in a acceptable way.
And like, what are you supposed to be in that
Yeah.
environment? What do you want from me?
Yeah. It's also like
Yeah.
we were worried, like we'd have to like go jean shopping or
Yeah.
something. And like, I have no home.
Yeah.
When I go home, it's winter time. Like
Yeah.
where am I gonna stay in Winnipeg?
Exactly, right? Oh my
So
God.
it was ridiculous.
So this is, you know, you talk through the book around, you're exploring patriarchy, the medical sexism, as you're talking about the bigotry. I think this was a pull quote of not only sabotage the treatment of the conditions, but often kind of making them worse. And there's this line, her sadness is always prettier than mine, right? And that one really, that one was that's a hell of a lot. But you're discussing this idea of like being forced into competition with white patients in the ward and things like that.
Well,
And
that oftentimes that was just a competition that all eating disorder patients
yeah,
had with each other. It is a competitive illness.
yeah,
It's a contagious, socially contagious illness as well.
yeah,
I chose my eating disorder when I was about 11, as much as you can choose
sure,
something like that,
yeah,
because I read a memoir
yeah,
and I wanted to be like the woman in the memoir
yeah,
so badly. Maria Hornbacher. She was one of the blurb people,
yeah,
blurbers. I don't
yeah,
like that word, blurber.
yeah. The one of the blurbers, yeah, yeah. I kind of like it. I don't know. I think it's
Um, but I read her memoir when I was 11, and I was like, it's on, like let's fucking go.
yeah,
I
yeah,
still own my a copy that I stole from the Selkirk Public Library. And I met her in LA,
yeah.
and I went up to her and I was like, okay, this is either gonna kill with her or she's gonna
Be
like be
horrified.
horrified and disturbed. But I went up to her and I was like, hey, like I'm Brandi Bird, I'm a writer. I just want to let you know that like you're the reason I had an eating disorder and not something worse. And she was,
Way,
yeah, and then she
well,
was like, you know what? I had an eating disorder and something worse, so it's okay. And
right?
she laughed, and
Yeah,
I was like, okay, good.
yeah.
This is like, I really do believe that like the eating disorder was something I chose to protect myself from something worse.
Big time, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think about that a lot. I've talked about it with guests in the past around like, sometimes whatever, whatever the addiction manifests itself as, sometimes even though we socially see it as destructive, and yes, it is, these are destructive choices we're making, sometimes they are keeping us safer. They're the thing that's actually keeping us alive in that moment. Because
Yeah.
if we were just raw dog in reality, we wouldn't be here anymore. I can speak pretty, you know, not gratuitously in the moment, but you know, I can definitely speak to my own destructive choices that I made that while I wouldn't make them today, they're why I am here today.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
exactly how I
right?
feel about it
So
as
it's
well.
yeah.
And like I chose to recover.
Mhm.
Well, first off, it was a choice, but it was also the result of like a really good therapist
Yeah.
and medication that worked. And but it was also like my choice to be so uncomfortable
Yeah.
for so long. Like honestly, when I recovered from bulimia, I gained so much weight
Sure.
because I
Yeah.
was still binging.
Yeah.
I just refused to purge. And
Right.
eventually it evens itself out
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was like, well, there's no reward
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not losing weight. Why am I doing this? And I was able to just like regulate myself. And now I feel like I'm like if life is like the Maslow, whatever the frick his name is,
Yeah. I know the way you're
the
going for. Yeah.
pyramid.
Yeah. The needs.
Yeah, I feel like
What are the guys with the needs? Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I have many needs. There, most of them are okay,
Yeah.
and I'm getting them met, so I can like go higher in the pyramid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel I'm certainly not self
Sure.
actualized,
Sure.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like trying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think you really nailed something that I don't always know if I have the right words for, but it is that concept of like, I know for me, I was stuck in my loops because it was easier because it was familiar. And then once I broke them and I started replacing them with, you know, what I guess you could call healthier, but I don't know what does that even mean? They're just different. But like they were hard to maintain at first. And then, you know, it's like other processes. It's like working out. It's like the muscles just got better, you know?
Yeah, the muscles they get
Mhm,
stronger.
mhm,
Even if you take a break, they're
mhm.
still there. They
Yeah.
come back faster. And I felt also like I really appreciated the fact that I like gained weight and
Mhm.
quite rapidly because it forced me to like live in my body and like again like be my biggest fear,
Mm.
which sounds shitty to say, but it like I mean at its heart, eating disorders are about many things and they are about weight.
Yeah.
And I think not addressing that is does a disservice to people's actual suffering.
Mhm.
And so like learning about body neutrality and being like, I don't actually care,
Yeah.
it's made it a lot easier. And then like I've come into my own with like my gender and my sexuality. And I feel like I couldn't have done those things
Yeah.
if I was binging and purging and
Yeah.
trying to lose weight all the time.
Yeah. Because you just don't have the brain space for it. You couldn't
No,
think, you know.
I didn't have the space for anything, no
Mhm,
friends,
mhm,
nothing.
mhm.
I literally watched TV, ate, and threw up.
Yeah.
So
That's
life was pretty
I
boring.
that's the thing is that it's like you're so consumed by it, you can't get out of it. And yet at the same time, too, when you reflect back, you're like, oh, I was doing nothing. It
Yeah,
was
it's like
nothing.
I used to oh my God, it was so dramatic. I would listen to Nine Inch Nails every day is exactly the same. And I'd be like, he's so me. And it's actually like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's how it is.
literally. Yeah.
That's how it is.
You've written about how, you know, the sort of the cure, you've written the cure as this idea of like a eugenic concept, which I find fascinating. I really love this framing, you know, the idea of sort of the eradication of the animal, you know. Um, eh, and I just, yeah, there's something that just like really, you know, no pun intended, but really like bit me, you know, right? For you, what does recovery mean if the cure in the sort of biomedical sense is something that you were kind of mindfully rejecting?
I think recovery looks like, for me, recovery looks like abstinence from behaviors, but
Mm,
not because, but also like I don't define what that means.
yeah.
So for me, what that means is not binging and purging.
Mhm.
And it, except I did have a relapse. When I had a manic episode.
Sure.
I don't actually remember it, unfortunately, when I get manic and psychotic with my bipolar disorder, which doesn't happen often, thank God. But when that happened 3 years ago, 2 years, I don't remember,
Mm,
I was told I binged and purged in the hospital at VGH.
right.
But I don't consider that a relapse
No.
because like I don't well, first off, I don't remember it. Second off,
Sure, yeah.
I'm sure I was just trying something.
Yeah.
And
Especially when you get it. I know when I get into those modes and my brain just goes into like you go into instinct, and it's like you're going sub thoughts,
yeah,
right?
but
So yeah,
so for me, that's still abstinence because like
exactly.
I didn't
That's
make those decisions.
that's exactly what I mean, right? Yeah.
So weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I don't
Right?
know why
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what happened there?
Yeah.
Yes, but for other people, recovery just looks like maybe they do it every 3 months.
Sure.
Maybe they do it once a week. Maybe they're still struggling with the thoughts and not the behaviors, or the behaviors, and they have pretty functional, normal lives. I think for me, that kind of recovery wouldn't have worked because I was so all or nothing.
Yeah.
That for me, I really had to define it as abstinence,
Mhm.
and also like really focusing on my choices
Yeah.
and what I had control over, because my eating disorder was about control in some ways, and also punishment
Mhm.
for myself and other people and everybody who I thought had wronged me, and like all these systems that had wronged me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to like sort of come to terms with the fact that like I'm pretty vengeful as a person,
Yeah.
and I have to like figure out what my responsibility is.
Yeah.
I put this sticker in my
Yeah.
it says refuse victimhood,
Yeah.
and like I just want to revel in the fact that I can make choices and have agency in this society which tries to strip us of all of that.
Mm.
And maybe that's false and I'm living in the clouds, but I'm trying.
No, I think you're really speaking the language that I've been trying to push a lot recently, is this idea of like I've sort of been I haven't been able to find the right words for it because it always feels like it's sort of like I found myself kind of bored by victimhood. I've been bored by my own victimhood. I've been bored, and I hate saying it like this, but it's the only way I can right now. Been kind of bored by the other people's stories of victimhood as well, and I've just been. It's almost another version of saying what we're against, and I'm far more interested in what people are for. And I hate that Mark Carney just said that sentence the other day, or at least I heard him say that sentence the other day, and it made me want to throw up. But I was like, that's actually what I'm about, is like, how do we build? And we can still tell hard stories, and we can still tell true stories, and we can still tell wounding stories and all the things that happen to us, but they don't have to be. And now it's almost like here's the pass the hat of tears. It's like, how do we use this to push and go forward with it? I find sometimes for myself, my stories of pain and trauma and yada yada were always an excuse to stop. There was always an excuse to stay and pause, and now I want to use them as ways to like motivate and move.
Yeah, there's a great essay out in Toronto Review by Joshua Whitehead, actually, about
Another
repair.
blurber.
Yeah, another blurber. We actually grew up in the same small town, Selkirk, Manitoba. We were at the same middle school for 1 year. I'm younger, but he's much more beautiful. So he has an essay in the Toronto Review today about reparative reading and paranoid reading, specifically with like Indigenous literature. And I really agree with the point he made about like the TRC being this like the ultimate, like, people like Canada as a whole as a concept consuming just like trauma and
Yes.
torture and very real sadness and suffering, and what really came of it. Like I remember my cook, she got a settlement for residential school, and she never really spoke to me about it ever. And and the only thing I remember, she didn't speak English to me very much. I don't understand Soto, but she would only speak Soto really to me.
Gotcha. Okay.
I lived with her for briefly when I was a teenager before I entered foster care, and she was looking at Stephen Harper on the TV once, and she just said, "He's a snake." And I was like, that's just what they like. She shouldn't have had to like prove her suffering to the government. She
Yes.
should have just said he's a snake.
Yeah.
Because he is.
Because he is.
He's a snake.
Yeah.
And she shouldn't have to prove that she suffered.
Yeah.
And like that application was like they've since like tried to soften the blow with
Yeah.
other applications, but even the day school application was really like if you're talking about
gratuitous.
yeah, if you're talking about gratuity, like that no, gratuity is tipping.
That's
tipping.
But gratuitous. But it's gratuitous in terms of it's just like it's grotesque in the details that it's asking for.
Yeah,
really.
and so like now they like I got a settlement from the
I'm sorry. I don't mean to like. It's just that like the razor of gratuitous is just really that. Yeah,
that's
really,
wild.
Yeah, that really threw me off. Like,
I hate it. But yeah, like I got a settlement from the Manitoba government for being in foster care.
And they were like, cool.
Well, they were like, cool, but then I found out from they when I entered into care, I was given 3 different first names. So I didn't get my settlement for like a year and a half. Or no. Yeah, a year and a half because they were looking at the wrong names.
So they had to figure out what.
Yeah, and then like Peguis First Nation Child and Family Services were like,
right.
We don't know them, and then like the provincial branch was like, we don't know them, and it turns out they did. They just knew 3 different versions.
So this is something we've been kind of dancing around, and you know, there's a line in Post Memory about, you know, I recognize myself in poetry, that, you know, the idea that I belong, right? Can you tell me about the sort of the first time poetry gave you that feeling? You know, what were you reading? What did it actually feel like to go like, oh, this is sort of like, I don't know if this is mine or like this is me, or, you know, that kind of feeling?
I wrote a little essay about this actually on my subs.
Nice.
And basically, a friend of mine, Sean Robinson, who's a poet, a wonderful, wonderful poet. We were joking around that Sylvia Plath is like evil Emily Dickinson for a little girl. And it's true because those were the 2 poets that I connected with most, that I remember connecting with the most in my life. So the 2 poems I remember really connecting to are Poppies in October by Sylvia Plath. I used to be able to recite it from memory. I don't think I could do it now. That would be a great party trick.
Go now. No.
If only. That's what I'm going to do in comedy class. I'm just going to recite Sylvia Plath's poetry. like Courtney Love at the Mickey Mouse audition.
Oh my God.
Should have done that.
Yeah.
But
you write it or you recite it in like a Jerry Seinfeld voice though?
No, you have to do it. You have to put your chest into it.
Okay, fair. I was thinking of like, how do you make it your own, right?
I'm going to do Sylvia Plath in slam poetry voice. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
But it was Emily Dickinson. I got a used copy for Christmas of the collected poems of Emily Dickinson. And after great pain, a formal feeling comes, and I was like, oh my God, I have never experienced language like this before. And it's because I was 11 or 9. I was 9.
Yeah.
So literally.
You literally haven't experienced language.
Yeah. And then I was at the Selkirk Library again. I used to spend a lot of time there, and I would also steal and put back my stolen books because I didn't want my mom to figure out that like I was taking out adult books.
Right.
And I took out Ariel, and I was like, oh yeah, this woman's crazy, just like me. And there's literally a poem called Mad Girl's Love Song. Wow, that's so romantic. And it was. It is. Yeah. And that's why people do it. But I've grown up now.
Yeah.
I've put away childish things such as romanticizing suffering. No, I actually haven't. No.
But there's something about the first century and then reflecting and being like, you know, because I still have a very deep respect for Sylvia Plath. I adored her. And at the same time too, I don't find myself going back to her a lot.
I do go back to her a lot.
Yeah.
And I think my friend Sierra Louie, she's a comics artist, and we did the MFA together. She has a really hilarious scene. So she's Chinese, and she's Chinese Canadian, and she made a zine out of every anti like Chinese thing Sylvia Plath ever said,
Whoa.
and like made I just think that's such a funny idea for a
Yeah.
zine. And I'm like, yeah,
Right.
like really, she was a
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what is it? The bell jar. That's her book, right? That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's half that book is just slurs, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's just like, whoa, oh
Bell
my
was like very important to
well,
me
and
when
it's still an
and
incredible book,
also
but
the
you know.
Maggie Gyllenhaal audiobook is
Oh,
so good.
I'll bet that's
Although
something else.
hearing Maggie Gyllenhaal say some of those slurs is interesting.
Yeah.
But like
You know?
no, I have an appreciation for Sylvia Plath still. I think she was, particularly her last book, had such an like a fire to it. That's like the literal definition of the word awesome.
Yeah.
Regardless of the other shit she said, and even in that book, she says some pretty horrible shit.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, it's a document of time, a document of poetic voice,
Yeah.
like a document of like femininity in that era, or a specific kind, which is like this white middle class femininity, educated, but still being expected to be like a housewife, that I can appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also that scene by Sierra, so funny and
Yeah.
so like cutting.
Well, and I think that it's really important to not like I've always been really reticent to completely erase artists from the past who have used language that we wouldn't use today, you know? Because to me, it's like that's how we ensure that that language comes back, that that behavior comes back, is if we just completely abolish it and erase it and just say, nope, we don't look at it, we don't talk about it, we don't like. Obviously, we don't want to be recreating it, we don't want to be celebrating it, but to just whenever anything like whenever anything I'm trying to use not overly loaded, but also not overly flowery language. But it's like whenever bad stuff happens, we always have this impulse to just be like, and then we never look at it again. And then it comes back and we don't know how to deal with it because we ignored it. Right?
I think that's a particularly waspy
yes,
impulse
exactly.
too.
Yeah.
Is and it's like I find in my family, like not talking about things is the product of a lot of colonial
big time
habits that maybe were picked up not in, because like in my dad's community when he was growing up, everybody knew everything about everyone, and everyone sort of just like helped each other.
Yeah.
Or if they couldn't help each other, then they suffered together.
At least they knew what was going on.
Yeah,
right?
and it's like my dad. I have a poem actually about this. It's thinking about my dad getting like this rabbit sickness one winter where they didn't have any food, so they were trapping rabbits, and he really only was eating these like highly like super lean rabbits, and the problem is with that much protein you just get diarrhea. And you can die. You literally can die. So it's like starving to death or shitting yourself to death.
Yeah.
And like we'll take your chances, you know.
Yeah.
So like I think about that and like how knowing like particularly like gossip and like of course it's toxic sometimes, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And it is also it is functional in a community.
Yeah.
In some ways.
There's the what I feel like I can't remember the book I just read it in, but it talked about essentially healthy gossip. And it was the idea of like, it's actually a part of a built, well-functioning community is like kind of sort of talking shit about each other, but in a still a constructive way, you know? Like it's like
I think sometimes when there's a bitch session or like talking shit, even about your own friends, sometimes you say those things so you can process together a problem that you're having with your friend.
It's a way to make sure that it doesn't build up. It's a release valve to then be like, well,
a release valve, but it's also a way to problem solve and be like, hey, so this person can't hear this.
Yes.
How do I say it in a way that's not going to hurt their feelings irreparably? or the relationship because I value this person. But in every situation, I have agency.
That's exactly it.
And I think, and like even it's like I still have control and over myself, and I can grieve and talk about it with safe people that I think are safe, and move on and grow. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, God, I have so many more questions that but I'm just like, we gotta wrap things up. I've got two more questions for you. Three if we can do it, but two for sure. One of them I really wanted to slip in because it's something we were talking about at the very start, about this idea of sort of like sometimes letting poetry cook, and sometimes reflecting and being like, that maybe came out of the oven too soon, or you're right, and something that really, really resonated with me is the character, or the portrayal, or however you want to put it. Now that you framed it about it not necessarily being a one-to-one, I'm reworking my language, but the sort of the appearance of the figure of the mother in the book, and and the mother is everywhere, is everywhere in so many different frames, you know and it really struck me, my own personal reading, my own personal experiences, and this idea of someone who's both there to give you the life, but also to kind of be your perpetual punishment. And I call for my mother, and the city collapses, and did you find that writing these poems changed how you sort of understood that relationship, or did you sort of already understand it before you could write it?
I think I needed to understand it before I could write it. I'm estranged from my mother. I have been since I was 22. And it's like I have a very complex relationship with just the concept of mothers. And like there's this joke, like I've seen posts about it. It's like daddy issues are normal and mommy issues make you crazy. And
Both.
I also, yes, I have quite epic mommy issues. And I I think the rest of my life will sort of be untangling that relationship, because it is sort of like that is your creator. And that's an important, like I like on the last poem in the book, Mirror, is actually from something verbatim my mom said to me when I was taking pictures of myself with a digital camera. I think I was 12, and she was like yelling at me for some reason. I don't even remember the fight. But then she took the camera away as a punishment. And then she looked at the pictures and she's like, "You look just like me. You'll never escape me." Like a Disney villain. It was very arch and silly and kind of camp, honestly, of her. But I think it's underexplored.
Yeah.
I think like there's this monologue, and have you seen Stoker, the movie? Nicole Kidman. Well, I encourage everyone to go look up the monologue from Stoker of where Nicole Kidman is talking to her daughter in the movie, her character, and she's like, "I hope life tears you apart." And I'm like, yes, I need more weird mother, like also Hereditary is another good example of like,
God, is it?
Motherhood as being like this sort of horrific thing. And I think that is like in the zeitgeist right now, specifically because of discussion of like abortion and like pro-life people. Like this is a matter of life and death, and motherhood is sort of, well, it isn't sort of, motherhood is the reason. Like women are literally dying, people are dying because of like forced pregnancy. So I like right now everyone's talking about Sharp Objects on Twitter for some reason. That's a show I can never ever watch, I think. But
I tried rewatching it recently. I only got about halfway through, and I was like, I remember it's very good. I watched it when it came out, and then I was rewatching. I was like, oh, I remember why I never wanted to watch this again.
It's like Patricia Clarkson is the mom, right? It's weird because like I have a very strange, not strange, I shouldn't say that. That's stigmatizing of older women. I think Patricia Clarkson is very hot.
Oh yeah.
But I don't want to see her do all that.
Yeah, it's troubling.
I don't want to see her do all that.
Yeah.
And also Amy Adams, my favorite white girl. I mean, in up to Hillbilly Elegy, although I did appreciate
Forgot she
her.
was in that.
Yeah, I did
I blocked that
appreciate
out. I tell myself it didn't happen. You know?
She like beats up young JD Vance in that movie, and it's
Movie.
so funny.
Icon,
It's
you know,
so
right?
funny.
You
Like
know?
that's actually camp.
Right?
So yeah, she should have hit him harder. Yeah.
Oh,
More
baby.
weird mothers. We need
Yeah,
more
yeah,
weird mothers
yeah.
in fiction and
That's what we need.
movies.
Everybody take note. More weird mommies. I had a question about the idea of revisiting poetry, and I thought that was the question, but I can't find it in my list now. So my final question, is there something that you needed to understand about yourself in order to write this book? Was there something you had to figure out before it could exist? Or did writing this kind of get you there, or did the book just kind of mark where you were in that process?
I think I needed to know that I didn't have to write what was expected of me in order to feel fulfilled. I didn't need external validation. I think getting that external validation with my first book was very helpful in proving that like it's actually agonizing to like look at lists and be like, oh, I hope I'm on this. I hope I'm on this.
Right.
And then you're on it or you're not on it. And if you're on it, you have to wait to see if you've won. And then you find out inevitably you've lost. I think I lost 4 awards, lost in quotation marks. Like it is very cool to be nominated for those things.
Yeah.
But I am not going to be waiting on like tenterhooks or whatever to like hear if Pitiful's on a list.
Yeah.
The money would be awesome.
Yeah.
I got $1,000 for being on the list for Governor General's. Pretty cool.
Not bad.
I was just on a list.
Yeah. Kind of list you want to be on, right?
But
Probably
yeah.
not the one I'm on, but yeah.
Yeah. So what I discovered is that I need to write for myself.
Yeah.
I don't like, yes, I write for my communities. I'm in multiple communities and some of them intersect and some of them are like I'm in fandoms.
Yeah.
It's like I don't, it's like I'm writing for those people as well. However, it has to start with myself, and maybe that's like individualist or something, but it is how I function as an artist now. I just write what I want to read.
Yeah.
Or would like to read, or what my younger self might have wanted to read. And I think that like those like parallel selves are important to think about too.
Brandi Bird, I had 1,000 more questions for you, and we just don't have time, and so we'll just have to save it for the next episode. You know, you'll just have to write another book.
I already am. Right? I have 14 pages.
Hey, there you go. Anything you'd like to plug? Anywhere you would like listeners to kind of go next? Where would you like people to find you?
You can find me on my website, which is brandybird.com, or my professional Instagram, which is _birdwrites. I'm not telling you any of my other social medias because they're all private for a reason. And anything I would like to plug? I want to plug my playlists on Spotify.
Hell yeah.
I have one called Fuck Girl, which is the playlist I listen to when I'm writing my next book.
Oh, amazing. You'll need to send that to me and I'll put it in the show notes. It's such a pleasure chatting with you, getting to know you. I loved this book, and this has just been such a treat to chat with you.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the running joke is I have no sign-off of the show, and that has kind of become my sign-off now as well. I have no sign-off, so thank you. So let's stop now.